So I guess we can start now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am very delighted to welcome you all to today's webinar entitled Nearshoring Boom, Lessons from Mexico and Morocco, organized by the Policy Center for the New South. Thank you for joining us as we delve into a topic of immense relevance and importance, especially in today's economic global landscape. So, as we all know, nearshoring has long been recognized as a pivotal strategy in global trade and investments. And this approach has gained prominence as businesses sought to address the inefficiencies and risks associated with distant outsourcing, such as long supply chains and higher transportation costs. However, in recent years, nearshoring or the relevance of nearshoring has intensified due to unprecedented global disruptions, such as the COVID-19 pandemic and heightened geopolitical tensions. So these crises have exposed the vulnerabilities of extended global supply chains and the risks of relying on distant suppliers. Consequently, nearshoring has emerged today as a strategic imperative, offering a way to mitigate these risks and ensure greater resilience and economic agility. So in this context, Mexico and Morocco, which are the focus of today's discussion, emerge or are exemplary case studies in the strategic deployment of nearshoring, as both countries have leveraged their geographical, economic, and political attributes to position themselves as burgeoning hubs for nearshoring activities. So in today's discussion, we will dive deeper into the nearshoring experiences of Morocco and Mexico. We will uncover not only the strategic benefits, but also the challenges and nuanced dynamics each of these countries is facing. And by dissecting these elements, we hope to extract some practical lessons and insights that can benefit not only Morocco and Mexico, but also other countries other countries in their nearshoring journeys. To do so, I am very honored to introduce our distinguished speakers today. So first, please join me in welcoming Mrs. Vanessa Zarate Castillo, co-president of the Unit of Study for International Economy, Investment, Finance and Trade at the Mexican Council on Foreign Affairs, COMEXI. She is also the Director General at the British Chamber of Commerce in Mexico since January 2024. And previously, she was a consultant focusing on energy at Estrategia Pública Consultores. She also has over 2 decades of experience in public sector and policy advisory roles. So welcome, Mrs. Castillo. We are very pleased to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Next, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Federico Rubli-Kaiser, an associate member of the COMEXI. He is also a partner and a consultant at MAT Asesores, where he specializes in macroeconomics, international economics, and pension systems. His extensive career includes key positions at Banco de Mexico, CONSAR, and the IMF, as well as contributions to numerous economic committees. So, Mr. Rubli, we are very delighted to have you join us today.
Thank you very much.
Last but not least, I am very pleased to welcome Mr. Al-Arabi Jaidi, Senior Fellow at the Policy Center for the New South and Affiliate Professor at Mohammed VI Polytechnic University. His areas of expertise include international economy, economic policies, international economic relations, social development, and Mediterranean studies. Mr. Jaidi has served on
Recording in progress.
Served in Morocco's Special Commission on the New Development Model and has held advisory roles to the Prime Minister and to the Minister of Economics and Finance. Mr. Jaidi, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Selwa.
So without any further ado, let's delve into the heart of our today's discussion, starting with our first question. And I would like to start with Mrs. Castillo. So, Mrs. Castillo, can we start from the beginning? Could you share with us how the nearshoring boom began in Mexico? What were the key economic and geopolitical factors that initiated this trend? And how did Mexico initially respond to this emerging opportunity?
Well, first of all, thank you very much to COMEXI and the Policy Center for the New South for this invitation. Now, I'll start with the first question. I have to say that I do not consider that Mexico is living a nearshoring boom yet. Of course, positive things are happening, but I don't think we can talk about a boom at this point. And in fact, there is the risk of losing the opportunity of talking about it if the new administration does not solve certain key issues, such as the availability of energy, particularly clean energy, water, and infrastructure. And I mentioned a new administration because, as some of you might be aware of, this weekend we're having a national election for a president as well as for new Congress, among some other positions. And in Mexico, we will have a new president starting October, and the views and the public policies towards nearshoring and the way to take advantage of it will be key. I mentioned that there are some positive things that are happening, and some of them are that between January and April of this year, based on a statement made by the Secretary of Economy, there has been 93 new investment announcements that represent 36.2 billion of US dollars. In 2023, 110 billion US dollars were announced too. So the main investors are the US, Germany, Argentina, and China. Foreign direct investment in Mexico is also increasing, and in fact, it has reached a record high, particularly in this trimester, the first trimester of 2024. However, most of it comes from reinvestment of companies that were already established in Mexico, and just a little percentage comes from new investments. Furthermore, the demand for industrial land is increasing, and based on the Association of Private Industrial Parks in Mexico, the AMPIP, it will continue like this in the next 5 years. Today, there is still little vacant spaces for companies that want to come to Mexico, which shows that there's an increase in the demand for companies to come here. And the most demanded ones are located particularly in the border state with the US in the north part of Mexico. Moreover, Mexico's market share in the US imports reached 15.5% in March, over the 11.3% that came from China, which shows that the recomposition of the US market favors companies established in Mexico. Now, related with the factors that initiated this trend, definitely was the trade and technology war between the US and China that started a nearshoring trend due to structural geopolitical changes. That can be dated back to, from a point of view, 2015, with the announcement made by China of its strategic plan named Made in China 2025. That was followed by a series of subsidies towards the growth of China's technology sector and the reaction of the US administration, particularly the Trump administration. Following this, the impact of the pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine conflict made it clear the need to relocate and protect value chains. US is rewriting its trade policies, and with it, the world trade. We have seen that within the Biden administration, the US is no longer looking to negotiate new treaties to increase its market share. Today, the US is looking to protect its value chains and decoupling them from China, bringing imports from closer markets. Furthermore, the US is focusing its efforts in its reindustrialization and in bringing back to the country investments. The approval of the 3 key laws, such as the Infrastructure Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Chips and Science Act, are key in these efforts that come along with the nearshoring wave. Now, there are some other elements that we should consider when talking about Mexico and nearshoring. The first one, of course, is the location geography. And we have access to the Pacific, the Gulf of Mexico, the US, and of course, we are connected with Central America and South America. This privileged location gives us logistics advantages. Also, the trade treaties network that Mexico has is very important. We have 40 treaties with 50 countries and more than 30 investment protection treaties. And when talking about treaties, of course, the most important one is the USMCA. Annual US goods trade with Mexico and Canada partners to the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, the USMCA, is nearly 1.6 trillion US dollars, supporting supply chains that are the foundation of the US economic power. Every minute, $3 million US dollars in trade is generated between the North American countries. Besides the USMCA, Mexico has a mature manufacturing market with sectors already integrated with North America, and particularly with the US, such as automotive industry and electronics. Just to mention some examples that put the country in an easier route towards having companies participating in the value chain of sectors that the US is promoting today, such as semiconductors. For example, today Mexico is the 8th producer of electronics in the world, has an industry with low carbon cost, already has educated labor and a strong manufacturing base, which make it easier for Mexican companies and companies interested in getting into the value chain of semiconductors do so. Other examples are electric vehicles, particularly batteries. Mexico, for example, can take advantage of the IRA because to get or to unlock all the benefits of consumer credits included in this act, it is stated that on an incremental manner starting at 40% in 2023 and up to 80% in 2030, the percentage of critical minerals for the batteries must be recycled, extracted, or processed in a country with which the US has a free trade agreement. At the same time, the batteries should be manufactured or assembled in North America. So companies from all over the world come to Mexico because we have a developed ecosystem and it makes sense from a business point of view. And I will leave it in there.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, for this comprehensive overview. So you have explained that there is not properly said nearshoring boom in Mexico because there is much to be done, but you specified that there is a great potential in the Mexican economy, especially the geographic location, the treaties that the country has, especially the USMCA, and also the emerging manufacturing sector of Mexico. And to add on what you said, I would like to ask Mr. Roubli about if you have any additional or further insights. And also, I would like to know how did Mexico initially receive the influx of nearshoring investments, and what are the challenges that are faced by businesses and the government, and what are the strategies and policies that were implemented to address these challenges, particularly in terms of infrastructure, regulatory adjustment, industrial policy, etc., and how effective are these measures in these early stages?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I thank the Policy Center for the South, for the New South, for this invitation, and also for COMEXI. I think it will be a very fruitful discussion. No? Well, at the outset, let me say that I completely agree with what Vanessa just told us, that nearshoring is seen as a very important opportunity for boosting the development of the country, but it's a process in the making. No, it's just starting. We have, let's say, 2 years that this started, and of course, in the wake of a presidential election, as Vanessa mentioned, things have slowed down because there's always an attitude of, well, wait and see. Let's wait until the uncertainty of any election that is normal just gets over, and then we will address whatever comes next. No. Well, let me just compliment that how we took this opportunity. No? Well, first of all, I think that there was a complete consciousness by part of the policymakers and also of the private sector that nearshoring should not be seen as a substitute for the continuing effort of free trade policy, especially in the framework of the US-Mexico-Canada agreement and also, of course, others. No? Because from a trade policy point of view, nearshoring is a typical trade diversion process. So one has to keep that in mind for not slowing our openness through free trade policies. No? So nearshoring is a substitute. It's not a substitute, it's a complement to all our policy efforts. No? Now, the big opportunity, the great opportunity that nearshoring offers has been recognized by international organizations. For instance, the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB, has mentioned that among Latin America, Mexico has the largest potential to benefit from the nearshoring. No? There are many factors, of course, Mexico's geographic proximity and also cultural and other features that are important from Mexico to the US. No, it's trade integration with the United States and Canada, and of course, very important, the lower labor costs as compared to China that the Mexican economy can offer. No. Now, as you mentioned, there are, of course, many shortcomings, which are challenges, which have to be addressed, and they have to be addressed in a private-public sector cooperation framework. No, it's not just that this is a matter for the public policy or a matter for the private sector in its trade strategies. No, it has to be a private-public cooperation framework. No. Now, in this sense, you asked what obstacles we have faced in the process, no? And well, I can mention at least 9 or 10 of these shortcomings that have to be addressed, no? First of all, Vanessa already mentioned it, there's the question of the quality and quantity of infrastructure, including warehouses. This is very important. No, we need huge space for building warehouses near the factories that are producing the goods and in this framework. No. Now, second, and related to the infrastructure, is of course we have to improve the process of logistics, and this includes, very importantly, all kinds of transportation. Third, we need to boost a technological modernization and improving, very important, the digital connectivity of the country and of the areas where nearshoring is moving. No, I already mentioned the access to skilled labor. That's very important. No, and something that we have seen in this government in the past 2-3 years that nearshoring started is that the uncertainty that surrounds this private sector, anti-private sector rhetoric of the actual government has to be overcome or has to be minimized. No, it has been very difficult for the private sector to operate within this government, given this anti-private sector rhetoric. So this, of course, has to be stopped in the next administration. No? You also mentioned deregulation. It's very important to cut down on red tape, which we have plenty still in Mexico. No? And the lack of the rule of law and insecurity also have to be addressed because they are important hindrances for nearshoring. And then also, as Vanessa already mentioned, there is the scarcity of energy, especially clean sources of energy, and water supply, which are very serious problems. And last but not least, I would like to emphasize that nearshoring asks for a competitive fiscal framework. And I would say that in that sense, Mexico has made some progress. There have been specific policies in this matter. No? For instance, the authorities have taken initial steps in this direction because in late 2023, the government announced a set of fiscal incentives, very important, to promote investment and human capital formation in a specific group of sectors. These incentives include, well, first, immediate tax deductions of significant percentages of the new investments made by firms that are expected to export at least 50% of their output in the remainder of 2023 and in this year, 2024. And second, an additional 25% deduction of the increase in workforce training expenses. No? So those are steps in the right direction, and these steps, of course, are going to be maintained in the next public administration. No? Now, you also asked about the strategies and policies that were implemented to address these challenges. Of course, there is consciousness about these challenges, and they are being addressed more or less by the authorities and by the private sector. But very important, the strategies also have to be emphasized at the local government level, because there are where the nearshoring opportunities are moving. And it's not only federal government policies. It's very important that at the state level, the states take the necessary measures to create the necessary incentives to it. No? Now, how effective all these measures have been in these early stages? Well, as Vanessa mentioned, it's too early to tell. We hope that they continue moving in the right direction, but to evaluate the effectiveness of these policies, I would say that it's too early to tell. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roubli, for shedding light on these challenges faced by the nearshoring landscape in Mexico. You've mentioned the quality and quantity of infrastructure, the process of logistics, technological and digital connection, access to skilled labor, etc. And you've highlighted a very important point, which is the importance of cooperation between private and public sectors to address these challenges. So I would like to move to Professor Jaidi to hear about the Moroccan experience. And I would like to ask Professor Jaidi, could you talk about the timeline and the key drivers that marked the beginning of nearshoring in Morocco? And how was this initiative received by local industries and the government? And what were the initial strategies and policies implemented to attract nearshoring investments? And how effective were these measures in the early stages?
Thank you. First of all, I think that the diversification of supply chains and nearshoring is creating emerging flows in trade and in FDI that are set to grow the economy, Moroccan economy. And the challenge to be met is to have these opportunities and to take this opportunity for development, for the future development. And over the past few years in Morocco, as in other regions, in Latin America or in Asia, the subject of global supply chain diversification has been very widely discussed. Most attention is paid to the US and EU imports and investment from countries that serve as alternatives to China. Due to their less well-established industrial structures and technological know-how, the demand for the final products from these locations has resulted in rapid intermediate goods or raw materials import from China to support this process. However, with the United States and the EU's desire to de-risk from China, it is logical to anticipate a gradual increase in the intermediate trade in investment, also among some countries, some proximities countries, as Mexico or Morocco. I think that in Morocco, maybe from a long date, Morocco has established an economic framework and a business laws that promotes the economic development of the country, but also the attractivity of FDI and the nearshoring. And in order to achieve this goal, Morocco has launched since the early of 1990s a series of legal reforms designed to modernize the legal and regulatory framework from business, amend and modify several legislation and codes, including the commercial code, the investment charter, the intellectual property law, the law of freedom of pricing and competition, the law of public and private partnership, the law on publicly limited companies and the Arbitration Act, and so on. And furthermore, Morocco's accession to first the World Trade Organization, and in second, the ratification of the free trade agreement with the European Union, but also with the United States, have served as a catalyst for the process of legislative reform, additional legislative reform. So many reforms have been adopted in the last decades in order, as I said, to establish a transparent and predictable investment climate, such as the investment charter. So I think that also Morocco has a particularity in the region. It has a strategic location for investment and trade. A regional exporting hub, Morocco launched strategic projects as the Tangier Maid port, which is today the first transshipment platform in Africa and connected to nearly 200 ports around the world with a large treatment capacity. And we have also, or the public policy have accorded to the competitive and qualified force, labor force, a very important attention. Morocco benefits from a young and competitive workforce, but this workforce have to be trained, to be qualified, for to be included in a new industrial development or project development. So also, I think that one of the objectives of the public policy is the integrated industrial platform, which has been created and dedicated to industrial zones across the country, among which we have free zones. These free zones offering numerous advantages for local investment and local integration. And the most important, I think, factor to mention in this point is the political stability of Morocco. I think that it is a very important factor. Morocco is considered in the region as a stable country, both politically and economically, thanks to the orientation of public policy and the openness and democracy, etc. And you have in Morocco a strong macroeconomic environment, and this macroeconomic environment is a challenge in the disturbed environment now in the world, and it is a real additional factor to attract investment. So I think that even if the framework is important to attract investment from Europe or from abroad, what I want to mention is the relation with the European Union. It is our first and important partner in trade and in investment, and government measures had been taken to motivate FDI from European enterprise in Morocco. I think also that with the specific agreements with Europe, you have the sectorial strategy in Morocco, which are very important to create an entry in the investment from Europe. I mean the industrial acceleration plan from 2040 to 2020. It was launched in 2040. And it is a vast project of economic modernization to attract more FDI in the industrial sector. And the plan aimed at establishing ecosystems that integrate value chains and supplier relationships between large European companies and Moroccan firms, mainly small and medium enterprise. And among other results, the plan created 45 industrial systems in partnership with professional associations and universities in various sectors, and their generalization to all the regions of Morocco, but by integrating small and medium enterprise and by placing industry at the heart of economic and technological transformations. And I think that after the positive result of the industrial acceleration plan, the government launched a second phase for 2021 to 2025, focused mainly on the consolidation of the achievements made with within the framework of the first phase of the plan. And among the reasons to invest in Morocco for European firms and American or other investors, there are this legal framework and an assistance measures very favorable to investors. But on the other hand, Morocco still has a relatively small internal market. And we observe that there is significant social and regional disparities and a weak in productivity, notably industrial productivity. And in some sectors, a low of competitiveness. And I think that there are the main challenges for the next step for the growing, for developing the economic growth and attract investment from Europe or elsewhere. But I want to signal a point. Despite the trend of nearshoring or friendshoring between Europe and Morocco, or between United States and Mexico, I think that there are new perspectives with nearshoring, as we mentioned in the precedent intervention. But I think that Asia is a very competitive pole for Morocco and also for Mexico, because I think that Asia has many advantages to develop industrialization in some sectors. And I think back to Europe, we observe that the main firms in Europe are looking to Asia more than looking to North of Africa. Maybe because the economic stability in all the region of North Africa is not very encouraging the investment. And the political tension between Algeria and Morocco is one of the big problems. But I think that if this situation is going for the next year, it was the reason for this that Morocco wants to develop its economy or industrial economy as a hub between Europe and Africa. And he develops now a new approach to develop its Atlantic facade or Atlantic coast from the north to south on Africa in a new approach, collective approach, to be more attractive for the investments, because today the attractiveness of investment is it depends on the capacity not for only one country, but a region at all.
Thank you, Professor Jaidi, for this a very insightful overview. You've talked about the importance of the reforms done by Morocco in the early stages in the 1990s regarding the business laws, business environments, but also the access of Morocco to the WTO and the agreements, trade agreements with the EU and the US, and how these were drivers for the nearshoring and were factors that attracted investments. You've talked also about strategy projects, industrial zones, and also some assets that Morocco has, like political stability and economic stability and sectoral policies. So I would like to circle back to Mrs. Vanessa, and I would like to ask you, based on the elements you've discussed before, what can you tell us about the main successes and failures in the Mexican experience? Are there any specific case studies from specific sectors, for example? And also, from your perspective, what are the policies or initiatives that you think have contributed to these outcomes? Mrs. Vanessa, you are on mute.
That's correct. Okay, thank you. So I agree with Federico. I think it's a little bit too early to judge if policies are working or not. However, I will say that a success definitely was the USMCA. And I think it was very important that this administration took a pragmatic decision, which is not common for this administration, to take that kind of decisions based more on the pragmatic part and less on the ideologic part. But they did, and they ratified the USMCA, even though it was a treaty negotiated by a previous administration. So I think that was key for this administration. However, the treaty has a history that goes back to this nearshoring wave. It wasn't really a decision thinking about nearshoring, but it was more a decision thinking that it made sense for the Mexican economy at large. Now, I believe that taking advantage of this opportunity has been pushed more by companies interested in participating in the value chains of key sectors, and not really by the current administration. Although there is a recognition and consensus that this nearshoring opportunity can be transformative for the country and really make a difference within our economy, not much has been done related with public policies or industrial policies. It is worth to mention, and Federico already explained it in detail, that the Secretary of Finance last October published a decree with different incentives for the attraction of investments in key sectors related with U.S. strategic sectors such as electric vehicles, electronics, semiconductors, to mention just some, and also to push the development of human capital. But the incentives were just for 2 fiscal years, 2023, and 2024. Now, the leading candidates, including their proposals, policies related with infrastructure that has to do with trade, the support of the construction of industrial parks, generation of cleaner energy and cheaper energy. However, I guess we have to wait and see if all those promises become real, and if the next administration does implement an industrial policy as well as a state effort to complement it in areas such as infrastructure, water, and energy. So I would like to focus a little bit more on energy. So in order to fully embrace the nearshoring and the integration with North America, by developing stronger supply chains, we need to think about the country's energy transition, as well as increasing the presence of renewables in our energy matrix. Today, almost 75% of the electricity generated in Mexico comes from fossil fuels. 59% is natural gas, 16% comes from diesel and fuel oil, and today in the Mexican matrix, only 5% comes from solar, and 6% comes from wind, and 15% from other clean sources, including hydroelectric. So the political will of the next government will be key. We need public policy that leads Mexico towards a cleaner energy matrix and a strategic planning that can take us there. And that considers not only generation of clean energy, but also the infrastructure needed to take it where it is required. Talking about planning the electricity infrastructure, our constitution is very clear about it. Electricity planning is an activity reserved to the state, and the state is the sole responsible of it. And for that purpose, the Ministry of Energy publishes a plan for the next 30 years that is called PRODECEN, and it is renewed each year. Also, we have an electric industry law, and that is very clear in stating that the objective of planning is to satisfy the demand and to fulfill the clean energy objectives. So in order to do so, the next administration will have to do different actions. First, on the generation side, they will have to promote clean energy generation, not only with the utilities national company, the CFE, but also with different business models that allows private participation. And for that, permits should be awarded in all plants that run based on fossil fuels, such as fuel oil or diesel, shall be closed or replaced. Although this administration announced the construction of a photovoltaic plant in the north part of Mexico, it is not enough to really fulfill Mexico's international commitments and to satisfy the clean energy requirements of global companies coming to Mexico. At this point, we can see that around 1.8 to 2 gigawatts of renewable energy are at a standby due to a lack of permits granting from either the regulator or because the national utilities company is not granting the interconnection, and this needs to be solved in the very short term. A second point that is urgent is for the next administration, it is urgent to invest in transition and distribution of electricity. This administration made minimal investments on this area and is key to take the electricity where needed, particularly when talking about taking advantage of nearshoring. Again, the national plan for the electricity system shows a significant lag in transmission and distribution projects. So between 2015 and between 2022, the Ministry of Energy mandated the utilities company, and specifically the utilities part of the company that is in charge of transmission and distribution, the construction of 318 projects, and by 2022, only 30 of them were done, which represents just 9.4% of the total. And moreover, between 2020 and 2022, the length of the transmission lines increased only by 0.17%. So we see that there is a lack of investment in transmission and distribution, and this also could be confirmed with the 2024 budget. Even though for 2024, the budget that was awarded to the utilities company was the highest budget since the beginning of the administration, the part of the transmission and distribution is getting less money, 31% and 24% respectively. So, and we're really looking at the consequences of this lack of investment in transmission and distribution. In some states that are getting most of the investments, especially in the north part of Mexico, such as Nuevo León or Coahuila, some permits haven't been granted based on the idea that the system or the national electric system will be overloaded in the next 4 years. There's also a case, for example, of a state in the center of Mexico that is named Querétaro, where the government state made a very important effort and created a public policy to promote it as a hub for data centers, and now they are facing a problem and they are struggling to get the electricity needed because the transmission and distribution lines are full. And the project it was supposed to be built in phases, and now there's a risk of not being able to get all the phases done because of a lack of electricity and a lack of electricity. So also again, talking about Nuevo León, which is one of the main receivers of foreign direct investment, of new investments. There's about 900 megawatts of electricity demanding connection, but they're just staying there in line, waiting for the regulator to get them the permit. So it is strategic to develop the transmission lines in some very strategic corridors in Mexico to really be able to take a full advantage of the nearshoring. Now, also talking about energy, there's another point that should be considered especially for the next administration, and that is to take advantage of some other new technologies for the generation of other clean fuels, for example, the green hydrogen, and the need to have a national strategy for its development. And another point will be the need to decarbonize the state-owned companies, both in the oil and gas sector and in the electricity sector.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, for this explanation. You have mentioned many interesting questions and points that the Mexican government needs to focus on in order to take advantage of nearshoring and to position itself in the global economy. You've mentioned the importance of energy transition and also the importance of investing in electricity transmission and distribution, and also green fuels such as green hydrogen. And I think this is very important, especially given the global trend to transition to green technologies and green energy and clean energy. Sorry. So I would like to continue the discussion with Mr. Federico, and I would like to ask you what is your perspective on the future outlook for nearshoring in Mexico over maybe the next 5 to 10 years? And do you think there are some emerging sectors that could benefit more than others? And also, what lessons can Mexico learn, and what lessons can we learn from the Mexican experience regarding the nearshoring activities?
Yes, of course. Well, let me start by just highlighting a problem in terms of identifying and registering investment flows of nearshoring. We have to be very cautious because not all FDI is due to nearshoring, as we know, no? But there is a tendency, especially in Mexico, to do so. But this implies a big overestimation of nearshoring, no? Now, of course, identifying and registering such flows is not an easy task. It implies a careful research and examination of the firms wanting to invest in Mexico. So I would say that we have not a credible and complete registry of nearshoring. No? What we have are statements, anecdotal evidence, indirect evidence, and plans of the firms that suggest that we can somehow approach quantitatively how much nearshoring we can expect in the near future. No? Now, for instance, just to show this point, the authorities last year revealed that they have registered intentions of firms to invest in the form of nearshoring of about $40 billion. We have to keep in mind that more or less foreign direct investment in Mexico per year is about between 32 and 36 billion US dollars. No? So 40 billion just for nearshoring is, of course, a huge number. But they did not say in what time span they were expecting this $40 billion to materialize. No? So there you can see that there is a mixture in that figure of normal FDI flows and nearshoring flows. No? And then, of course, we have had some non-fulfilled promises because within this 40 billion, there were considered 10 billion, the intention of 10 billion of the Tesla plant in the northern part of Mexico. But this now is has been put on hold. So the Tesla investment, I think, up to now is like a big fiasco, no? Unfortunately. Now, there have been nearshoring investments, just looking for the outlook, for the future outlook in the next 5 or maybe 10 years. No, there have been nearshoring investment announcements in various industries, including motor vehicle manufacturing and automotive parts, furniture, home appliances, toys, among others. No? Moreover, there has been a significant increase in US imports from Mexico in specific sectors where Mexico has a comparative advantage, such as computer and electronic products, electrical equipment, machinery, and beverages, which are typical sectors where nearshoring is emphasizing their intentions. No? Now, I would like to highlight some sectors that exhibit already nearshoring benefits and that are expected to have a great future potential. And let me just show in 2 slides this point, no? What we have here. Okay, this is the map of Mexico. And as you can see, the dark green are the larger nearshoring intentions of investments. And as you can see, it is completely concentrated very much in the northern part of Mexico. So nearshoring, of course, has regional disparities that have to be addressed. And there are opportunities to change this because, for instance, take this very southern part state. This state is called Yucatan. It's in the southern part, in the southern peninsula. No? Well, Yucatan has a big potential because it's very close to the US, because you just take this route here in the Gulf and you are in Florida. So Yucatan is a border state, such to speak, to the US. And there's a big opportunity if you develop good infrastructure and good connectivity from this state to the United States. No? And this, of course, can contribute to having better benefits or more widespread benefits that can reduce the regional disparities that we are seeing in the country. So, of course, it's natural to expect that these 2 states that are border states with the US, it's of course expected that they show a bigger potential for nearshoring benefits because connectivity and transportation and so on is much more developed here. But of course, I agree completely with what Vanessa just said. A big problem is, of course, to face the scarcity of energy, not only in the north part, but in the whole country. You know? And here I'm just showing the sectors that in the next years are definitely sectors that are potential for reaping the benefits of nearshoring. There is the semiconductor and other components sector. That's where all started with the microchips. That's where the whole process started after the pandemic. Then office furniture, agriculture, construction and mining machinery, steel products, other metal products, metalworking machinery, paper products, foundries, non-ferrous metal products, computer and peripheral equipment. And so it's all in all, these manufacturing opportunities have to be emphasized. No? Now, just to round up about what we can learn from let me just take this off. What we can learn from the Mexican experience so far, and especially from the experiences of other countries like Morocco, no? I would summarize them in 3 points. No, we have mentioned lots of points, but let me summarize it in 3, what I think are crucial elements and crucial experiences that we have to learn and that we have to have in place if we want to have a positive nearshoring process. No? Well, there are 3. The first, of course, political stability is essential. So is the compliance with the rule of law and the enforceability of contracts. Second, infrastructure, as we have emphasized, is very, very important. No? We should not hesitate, the government should not hesitate in investing heavily in infrastructure projects. And third, I would like to highlight the importance of education of the workforce, because the labor market is crucial for the success of nearshoring and also to extend the benefits to not only to entrepreneurs, but also to the workers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Federico, for this very clear analysis. You've listed some of the sectors that are positioned to benefit from nearshoring in Mexico. And finally, you've highlighted some lessons that Mexico can learn and implement in order to fully benefit from its potential in this sector, especially political stability, infrastructure, and education. So finally, I would like to finish with Mr. Jaidi. Professor Jaidi, can you please talk to us about Morocco's achievements in this sector, but also the challenges and setbacks in its nearshoring journey, and what lessons can be drawn from the Moroccan experience? And finally, what are the remaining challenges that need to be addressed? And what specific solutions and policy adjustments can be implemented? And please, I will invite you to respond in 5 minutes so that we can we don't exceed our time.
I will try to have a response in short time. I think that significant effort in Morocco has been done to modernize the economy and encourage efficiency and innovation. And this has resulted in sectoral strategies. I think that the sectoral strategy is the main lesson we have from the experience of Morocco to promote nearshoring and to promote attractiveness of FDI. And I think that the other point, the other important point is the modernization of governance of sectorial policies. It is an important point to take in account. It is evident that we have other factors mentioned in the case of Mexico, and we share this point in Morocco. We have good infrastructure, very competitive labor force, and competences in the technological sector, and so on. But I think that the challenge now for Morocco is to achieve these assets, and to and I think the requirement of this objective is to develop Morocco's institutional, political, and macroeconomic stability, because I think that it is a very, very important, valuable competitive advantage in the region, but in the world. And the world is in constant transformation and disruption. And the second point is the attractiveness of Morocco's offer, which combines proximity, competitiveness, and easy access to markets. Easy access to markets for foreign investors, but also for local firms. And the third point is the massive development of the infrastructure, as I said, because it's enabled Morocco to offer a well-connected economic and well-connected country, where the movement of goods and data is smooth and rapid. So the significant upcoming challenges is to capitalize on these assets, and the objectives of the industrial policy or the public policy globally is to increase not only the share of the industry in the GDP by the integrated sectorial industry. Second is to improve investors' reception capacity. I mean that the Moroccan firms has to enhance their competitiveness, their management, and to be in valuable relations with their partners abroad. Third is to develop productivity, because it's a real an impediment factor to growth and to diversify industry in Morocco through target support to the industrial base and support to labor force. And I think that to galvanize export capacity in quantitative and qualitative terms, that are the significant upcoming challenge. But I think that we can resume these challenges in some points. The first is to reinforce the industrial ecosystems for a more integrated industry, as I said. Second is to encouraging the development of the private sector development. I mean a competitive environment and a very transparent environment, business environment, facilitate market creation and market access, to reinforce capabilities of the firms, and access to finance for these Moroccan firms. And the third point is improving the competitiveness of small and medium enterprise, Moroccan enterprise, because until today, they are not very integrated and applicated in the ecosystem, in industrial ecosystem. Other point is to enhance the application of the new investment charter. We have a new investment charter, and I think this new charter attempts to create the condition of sustainability for the economy and create more jobs. But the new charter includes supports a new support system for enterprise and for the region. Another block of measures is to improve international position of Morocco. I mean that Morocco has to develop the free trade agreements in equilibrium approach with Europe, and to reinforce the management and governance of industrial policy. And last but not least, I think we have two big challenges. The first is the decarbonization of the industry. It's a very important challenge, because I think that now Europe is in transition to a new environment for its industry or economy, and we have to identify the main CBAM relevant carbon intensive export of Morocco, and identify products that are 1 or 2 steps higher in the value chain, and to have new politics to develop to reinforce decarbonization of industry. And the second point of the two big challenges is the digitalization. I think that the digitalization is not only important for job potential, but also for the efficiency, for the productivity gains in industry, and it is also a tool to in face of market distortions. And I think that we have to take the advantage of digital economy potential in this vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jaidi, for this detailed analysis of Morocco's journey in nearshoring, highlighting both the assets but also the challenges. You've mentioned a lot of points that the industrial policy and public policies in general need to focus on. For example, developing productivity and capacity of private sector and private firms, creating an integrated industry ecosystem, also improving the framework for SMEs and enhancing the implementation of the investment charter. And you've finished with two important transformations that are critical for this issue, which are decarbonization and digitalization. So thank you very much for these insights. This discussion has been incredibly enriching to all of us. And I would like to thank all of you, our distinguished speakers, Mrs. Vanessa Castillo, Mr. Federico Rubli, and Mr. Arabi Jaidi. You have provided us with important insights on a range of issues, from the economic and geopolitical drivers that have shaped nearshoring strategies in both Morocco and Mexico, to the successes and challenges each country has encountered along the way, as well as the hurdles that remain and need to be addressed. As we move forward, it's clear that the journey of nearshoring is ongoing and ever evolving for Mexico and Morocco, and indeed for other nations considering this strategy. The lessons shared by you today underscore the importance of adaptability, proactive policymaking, and the need to foster environments and to attract and sustain investment. So to sum up, I would like to thank everyone who joined us today, our speakers, attendees, and the organizers from the Policy Center and from the COMEXI. And also, I would like to invite the viewers to check out our website, policycenter.ma, for further insights and resources. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Thank